So obviously, before we jump into it, we've got a lot to talk about, mate. We've got a lot of fights to discuss. We've got a lot of news to get into. Firstly, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us. Very much appreciate it. It's a privilege to be able to speak to you today. And before we jump into it, like I said, we've got a lot to talk about. Before we jump into that, I just wanted to hear from your side because, from me, selfishly, I was actually in Sydney last year, and it was the first time I'd ever visited. And it was probably my favourite place I've ever been to in truth. The culture, the lifestyle, the beaches, everything was absolutely beautiful. I just wanted to sort of hear from your perspective. What does a sort of typical day or a typical week look like for you over there?
A typical week, like right now, or the past, I wasn't doing much at all. Just spending a lot of time with the kids. I've got a few kids. We just chill out. Do dad kid shit, just the usual stuff. But nowadays, I'm just starting to change what I'm doing because I have to get back into competing. So more training and stuff. Just the normal stuff that everyone else does. And you're right, Sydney, Australia is the best country in the world. So.
Yeah, I'm not built for it personally. I got the pasty skin. I'm not built for those hot climates.
You guys are English.
Yeah. I'm definitely not built for it.
My ex is the kid's mum is Jules. She's Scottish Irish. She's Australian, but she's Scottish Irish. So her skin tone is like yours. She doesn't get tan. She goes red, like in the sun,
very red,
and then fucking blisters. So we always have had a problem in the sun, so we just stayed away from the sun. So
yeah, I know the pain. Yeah, I just wanted to delve into, I really want to pick your brain about the psychology of really jumping back into the fight game, because obviously, coming in at a different age, just coming in at, a later age, there's different factors that come to play, and there's different challenges you got to overcome. So what's that like for you coming in sort of later into your life, jumping back into the fight game?
Well, yeah, like you said, I am old. As you're asking me, why is this old motherfucker coming back to fight? Well, it's like everything else. It's money. It's I started fighting because of money, and it's my motivation. It's not the fighting that I love. It's what the actual competing is what I love. I hate the training, but it's what comes from the fighting, which is finance, money. So I love being in the battle. The moment of walking out to compete, and in there is different from the training side of it. I've never liked training. So yeah, my incentive is money.
You said there, Mark. Sorry, go on.
No,
you said you said.
Go ahead.
Sorry, there's a 2-second lag on my delay, so it's always going to be over the top of each other. You said there that you hate training, and obviously we're going to get onto potential opponents for you just coming up, but obviously there's nothing necessarily in the diary at the moment. So what does your training schedule look like at the moment, just before you sort of maybe get into a stricter camp, if you like?
Well, right now it's just I've got the next 6 weeks of changing up the carbs and sugars, no carbs and sugars, and then slowly doing every day. I just finished training just now, do a couple of rounds on the pads. I start doing a program called ZOO, ZUU. I like doing ZOO. It's a lot of bodyweight stuff, especially for big guys like me. To be able to hold your own bodyweight, like functional strength, is a big ask. You can go around the gym and then probably from there I'd start working on some powerlifting, some strength and explosive work before I start into the proper training camp. So then I'll find a place I'll go and train it. Depending on what type of fighting it is I'm doing, I see who's available, see who's around. I still talk to some of the guys that I used to train with, and then see if there's anyone available to train, or I just go and train somewhere else. It just depends, of course, on everything else. So that's all on the schedule of fighting, where it is. Yeah.
With your training, I know you said there, depending on what sort of training it's going to be. Obviously, most of your career was in a mixed martial arts setting, and over the last couple of years, it's been more boxing. We'll get into the bare knuckle stuff in a moment, but would the preparation for a bare knuckle fight be any different to, say, the boxing camp from last time out?
It is, and most of my life has been, kickboxing background. I only started late in MMA. And every fight, I think the bare knuckle stuff would be pretty much similar to using like MMA gloves. I I've been fighting a lot before I was a proper fighter. I was actually fighting everywhere. So, my hands tell a different story about my journeys on both sides. To be honest. So, especially with that sort of kind of fighting. So, it's not new to me, that kind of fighting. It's been like what I started with. And like I said, I've got a lot of things on my hands that show my journey, and and I add a few more. It doesn't mean no difference. It doesn't make no difference to me.
Yeah. Is there? Do you have a sort of mental roadmap in mind on where you want to go in terms of obviously looking at bare knuckle? 3-4 fights potentially. Because obviously it's quite a mental journey you've got to take to really delve into. So,
Yeah.
what's that looking like for you in terms of where do you see yourself in maybe like a year?
Well, to be honest, in a year, I want to have competed in the 3 fights. In the backyard of the farm, smoking a cigar, naked on a chair. Sitting in the field, just not wanting to worry about or do different shit. That's the less issues I have, the better. That's what I want to be. Like I said, my kind of happiness differs to yours. Kind of to everyone differs. My kind of happiness. Maybe I like to be gaming my whole time, playing games. Becoming my alter ego and talking shit to everyone online. Becoming a real fucking demon there. That could be my whole life. That's what I love doing. It's just my happiness defines my stuff. It doesn't mean that I look at anyone else's happiness and say, okay, whether he's doing this or that, it makes me unhappy. That's their happiness. That's how they feel about themselves and what they want to do with their lives and what makes them happy. Whether it's everyone's different is what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
I'm different. I'm a gamer from a long time, and one of my goals and aspirations in life was to sit in the farm in the back of the field and sit around doing nothing, naked and just not having a care in the world. And also doing that while I'm gaming, gaming the game, cursing out motherfuckers and just being a real troll online. That's just, my alter ego goes somewhere else.
Any games you're playing right now? What's top of your list right now?
Well, I've been playing CS:GO. I've been trolling.
Oh, I love that.
There. I've been playing CS:GO. I like those kind of games, the shooter games like that. I was playing Dawn of War for a while, Age of Empires, but yeah, mostly CS:GO now too. So
I'm surprised that doesn't drive you crazy. Honestly, I can't play more than like an hour of that without getting mad.
You're kind of, I'm kind of like on the borderline. You're talking to someone that's kind of crazy anyway. So I mean, that's why I love gaming so much. I love like a lot of different people. It's like everyone has a little bit of themselves that they think, oh. But when it's gaming, it's my alter ego talking everything. So I mean, some of the buddies I play with, they probably get pissed at me and say, "This motherfucker ever stop fucking trying to hammer someone?" but hey, bro, you can be anything online you want to be and say anything you want to be online when you're gaming, because it's not you playing, it's actually your alter ego playing. It's not yourself. And I don't feel about some of the things I do or say on there. In real life, it's just when I'm gaming, it's like, motherfucker, you just shot me in the fucking head.
Firstly, Mark, I just want to say I'll never forgive you for putting the picture of you naked playing Xbox in my head. So thank you for that, first and foremost.
Hey, man, you can't cheers like that, bro.
No, I cannot, and I've got a vivid imagination, so I kind of hate you a little bit at the moment. But we'll move on from that. I wanted to get into the bare knuckle stuff, because I think whenever your name was mentioned in regards to coming back into a boxing setting or a bare knuckles setting, a lot of people are excited by that because the sport is growing massively. You've got people like Dave Feltman doing a great job over there. You've got people like Mike Perry just excelling the sport. Obviously, at the moment, we've got Micky Terrill, who's at the top of the heavyweight division. Was there anything that you looked at there and thought this is a particularly fun matchup? Or was it more a case of, this guy's got the belt, I want to come for the top of the tree?
Exactly what you said. He's the champ. He's a big Englishman. He's a strong dude, bro. Like I said, like every fighter, you want to aim for the best. And right now, the best in the bare knuckle is Big Micky, yeah. So I mean, he's the champ for a reason. But like I said, bro, I think he's relatively new as a fighter. But I don't know his story. But at the end of the day, he's got that belt, and that's the thing. That's what I want.
Apart from obviously the main and the obvious differences with bare knuckle, obviously the lack of gloves, this would be your first sanctioned bare knuckle fight, I should say. Probably not your first bare knuckle fight, your first sanctioned bare knuckle fight. What are the main sort of differences when you have a look at, say, your last boxing fight with Sonny Bill Williams and, let's say, a bare knuckle fight with Micky Terrill? What are the sort of, maybe stylistically or the approach? What's the main sort of differences between the two?
I mean, they're both. To be honest, I haven't seen much of Micky at all. I mean, I know Sonny Bill's a great football player. They're both great athletes. The only difference I see is there's a referee. You know, there's no gloves, of course, but at the end of the day, like I said, that's nothing new to me. You know, I have a road mat wrap on my hands about different times I've been around, and they're not from actually competing in the ring. So this kind of bare knuckle shit is not new to me at all. Like I said, the only thing added to it is a referee.
Now, there's been a lot of rumors swirling around the potential of a Jake Paul fight, and obviously that man's name is just about everywhere. What are your opinions on him? Because we are probably in the minority, and we kind of respect what he's doing. And I know some of the fighters are sort of turning to that opinion as well. But again, he's very divisive. So what are your 2 cents on him?
But it's funny though, like I said, Jake Paul, like I've been getting some messages from a fucking account, you know, with the Jake Paul number. They've been trolling me hard. You know, it makes me laugh because I'm like, this motherfucker right here. You know, at the end of the day, I have respect for what he's done as a YouTuber. I don't think he's up to par with fighting, to be honest. But for what he's done as in business, he's done great. For a YouTuber and a young man, he's fucking kicked ass, to be honest. But you know, we have been talking to the camp prior, and you know, I mean, I don't know if he's you know, willing to dance in this sort of arena, but you know, we'll see. But you know, my interest focus on talking to, you know, what's the best prize offer for me, to be honest. Bare knuckle really interests me. I you know, like I said, I find that really interesting, that journey. I'm really keen on doing that sort of competing. It's what I started with long ago, many moons when I was a young man. But yeah, but I think Jake Paul is great, and in the business side.
Yeah, for certain. And I think when you talk about sort of the red panty nights in combat sports at the moment, I think Jake Paul is definitely at the top of that list. So I think there's a lot of people that want to have a fight with him, especially someone like yourself who's very experienced in that. If that matchup were to go ahead, a lot of the conversations is naturally around the weight classes for that. What would that fight possibly look like for you? Because that's the obvious question, right? You're probably I'd say a good 260 at the moment, I'd say.
I don't know how the conversation came about with Jake Paul, but like I actually thought he was, you know, I didn't realize he's a different weight. Like, and I was like, oh man, and the guy, my friend I was talking with, was speaking with their camp saying, well, he's actually interested. I said, well, he must be heavyweight. So I don't, like I said, I don't really, you know, but he's fought guys that have been UFC champions. I think, okay. But like I said, if there was a fight to happen in that sort of sense, you know, if he was willing to do it, I could come down to about 110 kilograms. You know, it's going to be a problem for anyone, even at 50 years old.
One thing that I want to ask you about there, I have to ask you this because I made a post, a couple of posts about it the other day, and just sort of got a feeler of what people online were sort of saying. And the narrative going into any Jake Paul fight, not one with yourself, just absolutely anyone, is that these people are getting paid to dive, which I personally think is absolutely ridiculous. I think it's stupid. And this is something that you spoke about recently, actually, even someone offering you to take a dive in Australia. So I just wanted to get your 2 cents on, when people say that online, what would your response be? Because I think a lot of these people don't necessarily know who you are and the integrity that you have within the sport. So I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, look, yeah, I did speak on about, because you know, I didn't speak and make a bullshit. I mean, I've been offered, I was offered to take a dive, and I won't get into that stuff, but you know, for that amount of money, $3 to $4 million or what it was, I think it was, you know, what I was interested in. It was not the amount of it, but was how they made that money back. You know, how I was going to get it, or whatever, if I even considered it. But I said no to it. The thing about Jake Paul and that, I can't. You know, who knows? I'm not in that circles or want to take a dive, if anything. I mean, as a fighter, I mean, I've done a lot of shit that isn't okay in my life. You know, I've made a lot of mistakes. But I can say one thing about taking a dive for money, that is not me. And for Jake Paul, I can't speak on behalf of him or whatever they're doing. people are going to be trolling you all the time. So I mean, you can't please everybody, but yeah. So that's my take on all that scenario. We're taking a dive of fights, and Jake Paul taking a dive or whatever the fuck it is. Who knows? That's just not me. I don't do that.
Yeah.
It's not saying
just
I'm
moving
perfect.
away from.
It's not saying I'm perfect. Just like I made a shitload of other mistakes on the other side of things, but not one to dive ever.
Yeah. Just moving away from sort of fighting and diving talk, obviously. Could you give us some background on the work you're doing with the Swiss MMA board and the Penelope Foundation? Because that's news to us, and
well,
we'd
yeah,
love to hear about it.
I'm the only fighter on the board. I think it's a great idea. They try to bring a pension into for MMA fighters. Like as a fighter, they have pensions because of we're subcontractors. We got to pay our own shit. And I think, regardless whether the fighter spends up his, and it's on him to spend his money wisely, he just didn't even want to be a part of, but they ended up going that route because it was the right way to go. Ended up having to fight at my age, but it's not like I ever thought I was going to be wrong with it. I'm never wrong with that, and I never have been wrong. But that's what the Swiss MMA Foundation is part of, our federation is part of, and I'm good on that. I'm happy with that, and also with the Penelope Foundation, domestic violence is what globally is wrong. When COVID hit all of us, there was a lot of kids being born, and there was a lot of domestic violence, a lot of families breaking up because everyone was indoors, and that was a big issue. So domestic violence, they're either getting together, having kids, or breaking the fuck up, and that's because all of us are indoors, hiding, and that's so that's the Penelope Foundation with that part of. So yeah, I'm kind of grateful to be a part of those federations going forward. They got a bit of going forward, especially with the Olympics and things like this. So it's great times for MMA. That is,
and just
with the Swiss Federation. Yeah.
And just going, just touching upon that just for a second longer with the Swiss MMA Foundation, because I think the work that you guys are doing over there is super important because, like you said, you are subcontractors and you're essentially in this world by yourself and you have little to no support really from anyone. It's not like a traditional job in many, many senses. I just wanted to sort of know, what are the sort of, in the short term at least, what are the goals with the Swiss Foundation? What would you like to achieve a little bit more in the short term from your side of things?
On my side of things, because I've just been introduced to the board, is a fund for the fighters so they can direct them. There's a lot of things I could tell you right now about what I'm planning to try and do, or what I have in my mind to do, especially with retirement with fighters, the different things. I just and I've got to get back up to make some finance, basically. And the near what I'm talking about, especially with the foundation and everything. But right now I can't speak about it because I just got introduced to the board. They're what they stand for is about trying to bring a fund together for the board for fighters, which is I'm pretty I think that's great. I mean, it's like what we try to start here in Australia. We try to start courses with the government for fighters that that fight and they get injured while they're fighting, they're competing. Like I said, a lot of the fighters that come along, they try to say to me, "Oh, Mark, I want to be a prize fighter." This, that. And I said to them, "Oh, okay. Have you had a fight first? Maybe have one fight, maybe 5 fights, and then go from there." Because there's no point in them throwing their whole life into one thing and then they have an accident and they get broken and they can't make it. Because if you look at the issue, if that car there was a table, right? If that car there was a table, was the top table of the fighters in the world, the best fighters in the world sit at that table, and you've got to make a living on that table, and you have to prepare to kill someone to do that table. Would you be able to? Because that's what it takes to sit at that table. If that car was the table of the best fighters in the world, and you have to make, and you have to do it. It's okay to do it when you're by yourself, but imagine if you have families. As you go along in life, you meet a girl, a person, your person. You have kids. You have to look after them, support them, root them, clothe them, feed them. If you don't make it on that table, where do you go? Not only where do you go, where do your family go? Think about it. So that's why it's important for me to be a part of the Swiss Federation, to to look at these things in the future for fighters. I mean, people say it's none of your business to do that. Well, why not? I'm a fighter. I've gone through the experience. This is how my outlook on life, especially as a fighter, came through, because I never wanted to be a fighter. You know, as I grew up in life, and I had it pretty rough. I felt God said, Mark, this is your way to be. You're going to be a fighter. You're going to change. You're going to make things happen. And this is what I've been doing my whole life. And so here I am explaining to you how I see fighting, how I see other fighters come through and say, okay, I want to be a prize fighter. I want to do this. Well, you know, this is what it's going to happen. You could go through your life trying to become a top-end prize fighter. You could get injured, and it's okay when you're by yourself, because you can do other things. But if you got dependents and a family, what are you all going to do? This is what I'm saying. Does that make sense? Or?
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I wanted to, and that was something I just wanted to touch on just off that last point, Mark, because it's a good point that you raised up. I wanted to sort of ask you, do you think the sort of current climate that we're in now with social media, with the bright lights, with the likes of Conor McGregor, do you think that fighting or mixed martial arts or boxing is getting this sort of sexy appeal to it to the mainstream, but a lot of people are not actually realizing what's behind the curtain and what actually is down the road? Do you think that's becoming a little bit more of a problem these days?
Well, it is. Like the narrative back when I was in it was exciting to be a part of the UFC. You know, when people saw guys like Conor come through and make bank and then do things like this. You know, at the end of the day, you look at his story, and at the end of the day, he said to himself, I've got to make that fucking table. Whether I fucking die doing it or, you know, or that's how to make it. And he was one of the lucky ones. He's actually one of the only ones, well, that's one of the very rare few that's made bank. Do you know what I mean? And that's because he's navigated the right people around him. You know, there's so many holes for me as a pioneer, seeing this kind of thing and walking through and going, okay, I'm a pioneer, I'm going to fill up this hole, you know, and seeing this and go, okay, this is wrong. So I got hooked up and stuck on a lawsuit fighting with the UFC, battling on something I thought was wrong. You know, with the legacy with fighters, it's sometimes it's too late for fighters to go all the way and say, oh shit, I fucked up. But I fucked up now, not by myself, but I fucked up with me and my kids or whatever the fuck it is. You know, that is an issue, but you know, they're not the narrative these days for UFC fighters, they're not getting paid properly. And that's true. It's from not just from me, it's from every other person and people out there. It's from documents. It's the truth. So the aspirations for a younger person and fighters, like maybe just do something else. It's not like I've always said to people that ask me, I want to be a fighter. They said, like, I want to do this one. Well, you know, if fighting was a circle and you're a square, you ever going to fit in there?
That's a good point. And just looking in the way MMA as a space is now, and obviously, as we said, it is more of the entertainment business. And you look at guys like Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland fighting in the crowd, and you compare that to probably like 20 years ago. You know, that would be something you'd get kicked out of the UFC for. So it just shows you how much the game has changed. Is that something do you feel you would have had to have done back in the day? Like, would you be, if you were in place your younger self now in the modern game of MMA? Is that something you would have done? Because obviously, as you said, money is an important factor, and it feels like fighters these days are forced to go down these routes to earn money, to create these narratives and play the bad guy. Is that something you would have done?
I can't say something I would have done. You know, when I started, I mean, the times are different when I came through. Like a lot of people came through. I mean, fighters come along and they change the whole landscape of it all. You know, like Conor comes along, things change. You know, people hate him or love him. It's just the way it is. And at the end of the day, his goals and focus were done and made. I mean, what he left behind is we were left behind. If fighters these days look at it that way, if they be that way, then this is it. If that's what pays people, then it's not on me to judge what they're doing. I'm sitting here going, oh man, so that's how that is for them. Well, that's the way it is. I mean, at the end of the day,
yeah.
You have to make people interested in what you're doing, what you want to do with the fighting. And I think, you know, the same thing back in the days with Muhammad Ali was why he was the greatest. It was not because of his smack talking, I felt. It was because he fought a war, he didn't want to fight a war that he was already in a war. If you know what I mean. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
firstly, I just want to say appreciate
Sorry,
as much time as you're giving us. And
I went
no,
off
go on,
track.
No, you're good. Go off the track as much as
You're
you
good,
want.
yeah,
I
good.
do it more than the
Please.
next
I just
person.
think I think I went off track of the quick. Yeah, no, I just thought I went off track of the question, but I'm pretty much sure I answered the question. I wouldn't say I wouldn't do it or not because I'm not young anymore. I'm not a young fighter trying to be the best fighter in the world. You know, my aspirational, you know, my aspirational self has already been there, done that. You know, I've been the best fighter in the world in different sport. I didn't make it in MMA to be the best fighter in the world. I came close. I just got cut off by the legs by we know why. Wow, you know, and like I try to fix it, but it you know, like I said, it's already you know, like I said, it's taken a lot of my life up, and like I said, the monster's looking that way. He's not looking behind. He's looking that way. Here's your chance to go that way. Fix it.
So I appreciate we've taken up quite a bit of your time anyway, Mark. So just a couple of questions that I wanna finish on before we let you leave. I was sitting there thinking last night because I know that you've been quite up to date with the Saudi boxing scene, right? And you've been watching what's been going on over there. And there's been someone that I've been listening to that's been quite interested in a potential boxing match. And when I thought about this, I thought this sounded quite interesting. So I wanna get your thoughts on a potential boxing match with Rampage Jackson.
Clinton? Really? Isn't he having beef with Shannon the Cannon Briggs?
He is having beef with Shannon the Briggs, but they're not putting pen to paper. So I thought, why not get Mark Hunt involved?
Rampage is a great dude. I just, you know, but like I said, I'm willing to throw down with anyone. You know, I thought he had beef with Shannon Briggs. But you know, like I said, boxing will be, like I said, I'm interested in boxing in Saudi. I'm interested in what they're doing over there. I think it looks great. The pay would be great. You know, end of the day, it is. Like I said, I don't mind locking horns with anyone.
Roy Nelson, JDS, or Fabrizio Verdum in Bareknuckle. How did any of those go? How would you feel about those matchups?
Big Roy, yes, of course. The other two, actually, Big Roy and JDS will be great. Verdum has to have a clause in the contract for sure for steroids, no doubt.
Oh yeah.
The other two have not been caught. I don't think so. I know Roy hasn't, but yeah, so keen to do both. To be honest, bare knuckle. But Fabrizio, that guy needs to fucking be, you know, injected and take all the shit out of the system. Yeah, he needs to be put under. He needs to be put under Rico, that motherfucker. So yeah. All right, guys.
Lovely, beautiful. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate that, man.
Take care.
Thank you. Have a good one, yeah.